Okay, Oliver Farry joins us now for a look at today's French newspapers. Good morning, Oliver.
Good morning.
And our top story this morning in our regular news bulletin is from the United States. I think it's a top story in many of the French papers as well.
That's right. Libération goes with Hillary Clinton's announcing that she's going to run for president in 2016, or more specifically running for the Democratic primaries. This is 24 years after her husband Bill took the same route. The former Secretary of State announced it on Sunday. Libération goes with an English headline, Lady First, which is a play on Ladies First and also First Lady. We don't seem to have it there.
No.
But First Lady is, of course, what her title was the last time she was in the White House. Inside the paper's editorial speaks of a dynasty, co-inventors of democracy. Americans don't like kings, but they love dynasty. Having adulated the Roosevelts and the Kennedys, they might now well choose between two more at the next presidential election, the Clintons and the Bushes.
It does feel like the 90s again, doesn't it, a little bit?
It does, yeah, the 90s and the 2000s as well,
Yes.
if Jeb Bush is there. It says, however, there's a clear difference between the two. Clinton is a continuer of the humanization of capitalism, Libération says, and the messenger of an America that is strong but not so adventurous abroad. Now, that's possibly a reference to her time as Secretary of State, though we should remember that she voted for the Iraq War as a senator in 2003. Jeb Bush, on the other hand, says Libe is the brother of the president who left the Middle East in blood and flames because of his neoconservative convictions. A Clinton presidency would be what all progressives in the world would wish for. Now, not all progressives might actually agree with that, of course.
And I'm sure we're going to have plenty more analysis over the hours, weeks and months to come. Right now, though, let's move on to another story that's been getting a lot of attention here in France. We're talking about what the Pope's had to say about the Armenian genocide. It's not gone down at all well in Turkey.
That's right. The Pope has called it the first genocide of the 20th century. He was celebrating Mass to commemorate the centenary of the massacre of Armenians at the hands of Ottoman troops during World War I. He's not the first Pope to address the genocide. Pope John Paul II had done it in 2001. The Catholic daily Le Croix said that the Pope didn't do it to revive, for the pleasure of reviving a historical controversy, but to actually evoke another genocide, which it says is one taking place right now from Syria to Sudan, from Kenya to Iraq, by way of Pakistan also.
Of course, he was speaking, as you said, at a mass specifically to commemorate that anniversary.
It's not terribly surprising that he would utter these words. Now, they actually did provoke immediate anger in Ankara, which has recalled its ambassador to the Vatican. According to Figaro, Le Figaro says there's a diplomatic crisis between Turkey and the Holy See. Turkey has always denied that its forerunner, the Ottoman Empire, committed genocide in 1915.
All right, so let's move on to some news from here in France. Now, I'm sure our viewers have heard us talking quite a few times about these Rafale jets, fighter jets. France now perhaps managing to sell some for another big deal that we keep hearing about and maybe don't go anywhere.
36 Rafale fighter jets are on the slate for India. Now, that's going to be an estimated price of 4 billion euros. The business daily Les Echos calls it an unprecedented success following Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Paris last week. Now, negotiations for the sale of 126 aircraft had dragged on. 36 of them are now to be sold by mutual agreement between the two governments, but that's not going to come with the transfer of technology, which was the main stumbling block between the manufacturers Dassault and India. It is a success, Les Echos says, for what it says, this accursed plane, this symbol of failure of an arrogant France. But the paper says that the sale shows that long, hard negotiations need not necessarily be fruitless. And it'll also come as a relief to the French Ministry for Defence, because it is actually committed to filling up the shortfall and actually buying the Dassault Rafale planes themselves, just in case the sale didn't go through.
It's been a very long-running saga, hasn't it, indeed? Let's get another domestic story as well. Now, asylum seekers, there are a great many of them here in France, as well as across Europe, of course. The Audit Court, the Cour des Comptes, has been looking into how much it costs to process asylum seekers.
Yes, the Audit Court has actually done a report on it. Le Figaro has got a hold of that report. It denounces a collapse, a fraud that costs the taxpayer 2 billion euros per year. Now, what they're talking about is the cost to the taxpayer, the government, of asylum seekers who find their cases rejected. That's 75% of overall cases. Now, both groups, and also there are those who get asylum, both those groups cost €1 billion each. Le Figaro calls the report terrifying, saying that the current legislation is a factory for clandestine migrants. It notes that only 1% of asylum seekers actually leave France. The others rely on a whole range of free aid that they can receive, which is unique in Europe, and also the slowness of the justice system. Now, it might be worth pointing out that Le Figaro is owned by the very same Dassault group that was due to get a lot of taxpayers' money if the India sale did not go ahead. Le Figaro is remarkably reticent on this particular point.
Okay, very interesting cross-referencing of those two items. Thanks very much,
You're
Oliver
welcome.
Farry. He'll be back a little bit later on in the morning with a look through the top stories in the international press for us as well. Thanks for now.